What if I told you that over the past 10 years, both of these apps have been generating $150,000 a month? And over the past few months, I've been designing my own version of this ultimate social media app. And I have to say, guys, I think I built something pretty awesome that's gonna compete with them. Oh, and the best part? I only used one API to build the entire software, and I'm giving it all away to my school academy so you guys can grab this code base that I'm about to show you and literally launch it on the App Store, Android Store, and use it for your AI agency clients. I'm gonna show you everything. I'm gonna show you step by step how I built it with Cursor, how I used Claude Code, and how I implemented 3 very powerful MCP tools to supercharge our coding agent, helping us develop this software at lightning speed. Now, the best apps in 2025 are ones that solve problems for our users in a very simple way, simple to understand and simple to use. Our social media app, for example, helps any creator or business grow on social media across every single one of their platforms at the same time. This is going to save them hours a day uploading content, looking at analytics, and any marketing operations that they may have. So my promise to you is that by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to come into the School Academy, grab this code base, and launch it for yourself in literally a matter of hours. And before you ask if you need to learn how to code, I just want to paint a quick story. Before going all in on AI, I was a gym bro. I was running a gym in Miami. I was not in any technical field whatsoever, and I have gone out and built multiple projects, and this has been a life-changing year for me. And so if I can do it, I know that you guys can as well, especially with all the learning materials I have in my school academies. And we also have a free academy if you're just starting out. And as a quick tip, because we can all kind of build software now, I'm also going to explain my full marketing strategy to build this project up to a 1 million ARR project so that you guys can copy not just the software that I show you, but the marketing as well. When people see these type of titles, they think that we're lying. They think that we're not actually able to build software that can generate this amount of revenue. And the truth is, the opportunity in the software is absolutely possible, but you also need to have that marketing engine. And that's why I provide both of those for my academy. And as further proof, I already launched this version on the web, and that project has already done 110,000 in the first 3 months in revenue, and our marketing hasn't been going that hard at it. Please do me a favor, because this video literally took me months to build. Hit this video with a like, subscribe. Let's quickly dive into this presentation, and then we're gonna get into the code. Welcome to the $1 million social media iOS app masterclass. You're gonna get the full tutorial and the entire code base in the academy. Let's jump right in. So in today's video, guys, I'm gonna go through the entire app demo from a user signing up, connecting all of their socials so that you guys can see all of the features and how the backend code actually works on Cursor. So I'm gonna show you how all of that works in real time. Once you guys see the full app demo, we're gonna get into the tech stack breakdown and all the tools that you need to actually go ahead and copy this exact project. And then once you learn the exact tech stack that you need, we're literally gonna go step by step, forking the code base from the academy straight into Cursor so that you guys can follow along. So no need to beat around the bush, guys. Let's dive right into the full app demo. It's going to be compatible for both iOS and macOS. So on the screen, we have the Creator OS macOS and we have the Creator OS iOS. And both of these work the exact same way, but if your clients are on the move or if you're on the move, it's really nice to have both options. And so that was our first, big breakthrough. So we're gonna leave the iOS version on the right-hand side for the time being because the Mac OS version is tied to our Cursor development server, and we're gonna be able to see all of the logs that are happening in the console. So this is essentially the front end. This is essentially the back end. So when a user first lands on the platform, they're gonna click the Get Started button where they have an option to sign up with email or with Apple. So we're gonna go through the email pathway this time, and the email pathway uses Supabase's authentication. Supabase is our database, which we'll get into a little bit later, but basically what this is going to do is send me a verification email. So I'm gonna quickly go ahead and do that. All right, guys, so I just filled that out. I'm gonna click sign up. All right, so you guys should be getting an email that looks something like this. All you have to do is open it up and confirm your email. I'm gonna do that really quick. And now I can head back to the sign in page and we should be good to go. So the next thing that's gonna happen here is the user's gonna set their social profile. And this is what we use to connect all of their social accounts to. So I'm just gonna name this social iOS tutorial. I'm gonna click create. That's gonna create something called a profile key. Now, every user inside of your operating system or inside of your iOS operating system is going to have their own profile key. And this is going to help us associate their profile with their social accounts. And so we can see on the left-hand side that the profile key was successfully stored in the profiles table. And now this user that we signed up with has that profile key. Okay, so the next step is actually go ahead and connect our socials. So I'm going to click the Connect Socials button, and it's going to open up a new tab on my Google Chrome browser. And so here we go. We have the Google Chrome browser loading up, and here we have all of the different social platforms that we can connect to. So this takes a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and connect all of the socials, and I'll stop my fingers and we'll be back. We're connected to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook also have social messaging, which will come out in V2 of the iOS app. We just want to get this in your hands now, so that'll be coming in the future. So now that we have that done, I'm just going to click out of the Connect portal, and we're going to close the redirect tab there. And all we have to do is click refresh. And now we'll see the left-hand side just go through all of the different profiles that we have connected to. And now we can see that the user has all 7 socials connected to one app. So now they're able to actually move forward and actually use the app fully. So the first thing we want to do is head over to the dashboard and gain all of the analytics from this user. So the user connected their socials, but now we want to see everything that, is involved with their social standing. And this will help them understand, how, where their audience is, where their likes are coming from, where their views are coming from. But more importantly, we're also going to be tracking their growth per platform. So if a user doesn't know which social platform is generating the leads or which social platform is growing the fastest, this is the best way to do that. Once the analytics fully run through, the app sets what's called a baseline for all of the social channels that the user is connected to. So we have 2 ways of calculating the growth from our users. So the first way is by calculating their total followers growth. And here on the right-hand side in the iOS version, we could see that since I've been using this for quite some time, the total followers have grown 36.5% since I've connected all of my socials. And so the same thing would happen on this page here, but since this is day 1 of starting on this account, it's all starting at 0. So if we scroll down here, we can see all of the platforms that are available in V1 of the iOS operating system. So we have everything except for Google Biz right now. And it breaks down your video views and total likes as well. Now, the beautiful thing about the dashboard is that we also have a growth by platform. So, when you have an AI agency client, they want to see these type of statistics as well. So not only can this be used as a B2C app, but it can be used as a B2B app as well, where they can actually see the results that you're generating for them. So that's the dashboard. Now let's head over to the post content page. Now on the post content page, we can post to all platforms at the same time, and we just added this select all button. Now there's also Instagram and Facebook stories. And so that's a really easy marketing channel for you to create consistent scheduled posts for. And so we also added that in as well. So to create a post, all you really have to do is select the channels that you want. And in this case, we'll just do Instagram Threads because I don't want to bother my followers. And we're just going to write, what's going on. And then we're going to click on the media, and the media should then bring up our library here. I'm just going to grab a random picture, and we're going to use that in the upload. So that picture has now been used, and we can also schedule the post out for the future. Now, another thing that happens on social, Instagram Reels, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, is that you can add thumbnails to your videos. And so that's why we have the thumbnail option. But since I added an image, it won't let me add a thumbnail on top of the image, obviously. So now I'm just going to go ahead and click post, and we can see on the left-hand side that the API calls are going to start generating this call. And as you can see here, the agent has finished up the API call. And so now we're just waiting on the front end to actually get that upload confirmation. All right, so we just got the notification. It's got posted to Instagram Threads. And so now this introduces us to the content calendar. So on the content calendar, we're able to see all of the different content that we're uploading in real time. And so this again ties into your AI as a service as well, because if you're creating content on behalf of your users, you can put them as scheduled posts. They can come onto the content calendar. They can review the content. If they approve of it, then it can get uploaded. If they disapprove of it, then they can delete it before it goes live. But since this post already went live, all we have to do is click on that URL, and it's going to redirect us to Instagram Threads, where we can actually see the post that is now live. So that is how that works end to end. And you're going to be able to, send your API key and your profile key to AI agents as well for them to do the uploads if you'd want. So that's just V1 of CreatorOS iOS. I wanted to give you guys the full app demo from a user signing up, connecting all of their socials, doing an analytics API call, and then doing a post onto socials. But with the AirShare API that we're going to dive into a little bit later, there's still so much more that we could add into this, right? Like social messaging, social comments, looking at analytics on an individual post instead of on an account level. So right now I showed you guys the analytics on an account level, but you can also look at analytics on a social post level. And in a future video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on the AirShare API and everything that is possible in there. But now that we understand how this thing works, let's talk about the tech stack. I forget the saying, but it's something like simplicity is hard or something like this. And that's why I spent a lot of time building this app, because we only needed to use 5 tools. And I wanted to make sure that we only needed to use 5 tools, because this way you guys can copy it quite easily and it's not going to cost you guys much out of your pocket. So the tech stack that we're using here, guys, is Cursor 2.0, because it's the best infrastructure for building mobile apps by far. Like, it's not even close. And then we're going to be using our Claude Code agent, because the Claude Code agent in the CLI, in my opinion, is still the best agent for this type of app buildouts. So we're going to use that. And then the 3 services that we're going to connect to Claude Code is the AirShare MCP server, the Supabase MCP server, and the Revenue Cat MCP server. So AirShare is the API that allowed us to connect all of our socials. There's also a private key RSA that we have that we integrated into the code base, and we explained that a lot more in depth in the academy. And then Supabase has an MCP, which basically gives Claude the ability to build out the entire database, edit anything that's in there, and it's much easier to edit your database in this way instead of editing it with an API, right? So that's the first 2. And the third one, Revenue Cat, this is how you're actually going to get paid, right? So when a user signs up to your platform, they need some type of paywall inside of the application for Apple or Android to approve it. And so after going through all the different tools that we could use for payments, we've stumbled across Revenue Cat, and it has been pretty awesome, especially since it has an MCP. So the entire tech stack cost-wise is going to cost you $40 for you to build out this project, okay? So the AirShare API, we're charging you $20, Cursor's $20, and then Claude Code is $20, so $60 a month. All right, guys, so now that you know the tech stack, I'm going to grab your hand. I'm going to take you through how you can literally grab the code base, fork it, and then launch it as your own standalone app. So the first step that we have to do is head into the No Code Academy. So I'm just going to open that up really quick. We want to go and find the social media app iOS code base, and we want to open that baby up. So inside of here, you have step-by-step instructions that go along with this video. But the first thing that we got to do is get your API key. Once you do that, I want you to message me your email address, because I'm not giving this code base to everybody, only the people in the academy. And the way that I do this is by you sending me your email so that I can give you access. If we go inside of GitHub and we go to the web app version of the tutorial you're seeing today, we can see that 40 people in the academy have already gotten access to this code base, and the exact same thing is going to happen here. So all we would need is your email. So let's assume you did that, and now we have your email. Now we're going to move on to the next step, which is grabbing the actual HTTPS link. And so we're going to copy this URL to our clipboard, and then we're going to head into Cursor. All right, guys, so now that we're in Cursor, we're going to go to the middle here that says clone repo. I'm going to click on that, and we're just going to paste in that link. That's going to give this Cursor environment the entire code base. So we're going to click enter, and it's going to tell us to actually open up this repository in a new folder directly on your computer. So this project is now going to live on your Mac or on your PC. So we're going to click new folder. We're just going to show this as, the iOS tutorial. I'm going to click create. And so this is where the new code base, aka your code base, will live. All right, cool. So now we're going to head over to the top right-hand side of the screen. We're going to click on this toggle panel so we get this nice terminal open up at the bottom here. And what we want to do first is add Claude Code, and then we want to give Claude Code all of the MCP servers, and then we want Claude to go through the code base to actually review everything so it has an understanding of it. So Claude can create something called a Claude MD file, and this Claude MD file is basically the summary of the code base, and it gives the agent a good understanding of what he's actually working on, because the agent, just like you, is going to be seeing this for the first time. And so I'm just going to show you guys step by step what I think you should do. So first thing we're going to write is Claude. That's going to bring in our Anthropic accounts. We're going to click yes to proceed. So now that we have Claude, we want to see what MCP servers we currently have. So right now we don't have any MCP servers connected. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and connect Supabase MCP. So we're going to put cursor in a split tab, and on Google Chrome, we're going to go Claude Code MCP server integration Supabase. Okay, so you want to head over to this link here, /doc/guide/getting-started/MCP. And the client we want to select here, we're going to switch it from cursor to Claude Code. Now, one thing you guys got to quickly do is just launch any type of project on Supabase, because once you launch the project, you're going to be able to select it here. So in this example, I'm just going to use the same database that I'm using for the actual app. And so I'm going to click on that, and that's going to give us the server URL for the MCP. And I'm just going to tell Claude in the chat to add this MCP. All right, so I pasted in that link. Here we go. All right, guys, so we could see in Claude's response that the MCP server is now configured, but every time you do configure an MCP server, you have to restart Claude. But before we do that, we need to add in the other two MCPs. So now that we have Supabase, we want to add in the AirShare API, because the AirShare API is quite intense, especially if you guys are just starting out, because if you look here on the left-hand side, these are all of the different API calls that we can make. Like we can check analytics, but we can check analytics on a post, on a social network. We can look at the comments. We can look at the hashtags, the history, the media, messages, posts, profiles, review, like the list goes on and on, right? So what we want to do is we want to give all of this context, all of this information to our coding agent, so that when we ask it to do things, it's going to understand it, and the likelihood of it actually pulling it off is much higher. So in the bottom left-hand side of the screen here, we have the MCP server. I'm going to give that a click, and there's a bunch of ways for you to get started here, but since we're using the MACOS, all we have to do is really install this and then set up the MCP server configuration. Now, to make things even easier on us, all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to give it to Claude. I'm going to say, okay, great. Now that the Supabase MCP is set up, we want to now add the AirShare MCP. This is the website URL explaining how to do that. I'm going to paste in that URL and we're going to send it in. All right, so the agent just finished up. It said the Supabase and AirShare MCP servers are now configured. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command called exit, and that's going to quit the Claude Code environment that we are working on. And I'm actually just going to kill the entire terminal. Now I'm going to go back to the top right corner. I'm going to click on the toggle panel. That's going to give us a brand new terminal to play with. And we're just going to bring Claude back in. So the AirShare team actually just got acquired for like 50 million or something literally this week. So their MCP servers are literally down, but we are connected to Supabase, and that's more than enough for us to get started. So the next step that you guys have to do is tell this agent to grab the database schema that is in my database and merge it or migrate it to your database schema. Because right now this project is running on my database, but for you guys to have your own standalone app, you need to just add that schema to the Supabase project that you started. So once you do that and you're ready to go, you can also ask the agent in the chat, what is the database schema? But to save you guys some time and some headache, I'm just going to go into Supabase. I'm going to quickly explain the database and how things are working. So let's start off with authentication. So there's two ways that users can authenticate themselves. It's either going to be through email or through Apple. And when a user does authenticate themselves and they sign up, they will then register in this users tab. And if you wanted to add more sign-in providers, it's right here in the configuration. Now let's go inside of the table editor. So when a user signs up and they create that social profile, it gets stored in the profiles table. And this is important because this AirShare profile key is what's associated to all of their social accounts. So it's very important that we didn't mess things up and confused them with other users. So this allows us to make sure that there's going to be no data breaches or anything between users. The next thing is the social accounts. So when users go ahead and connect their social accounts, it comes with so much analytics and all of these different data points that we do need to keep track of. And so we're going to keep track of their follower count, their post count, the last time that they created their socials and connected to the operating system, whether they have messaging active and all this other stuff, right? And all of this data is basically yours to play with. So I designed the app how I think users would want to use it, but you can now build on top of it. And this is why we built out the social comments table, the social messages table, because these are all features inside of the AirShare API that you can now add to your iOS app. So that in a nutshell, guys, is how the database works. So we're gonna now click out of that. And at this point in time, you guys should have your own database schema ready to go. And so the last thing that you guys have to do is download what's called Expo Go. Now, Expo Go allows anyone on Android PC or just normal Mac OS to run a React Native code. And React Native code is the type of code that allows you to build mobile apps for both Apple and Android. And so the next thing that we want to add in the chat here after you install Expo Go is to actually launch the development server. So that's what I'm going to say here. And there we go. So now the agents gave us the information here. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up another terminal. And we're going to grab this terminal, we're going to drag it to the top of the screen, and then we're going to grab this command that says npx expo start iOS, and we're going to put it into this new terminal. I'm going to click enter. If you guys are running into an error at this point, it's probably just because your cursor environment needs to download all of the dependencies. So one thing that I forgot to let you guys know that you should do, which is what happened here, is that we need the agent to actually review the code base and write a Claude MD file. So that's actually what we're going to do instead. All right, so I said, please review the entire code base, all the functionality, APIs, and things you think you need to know for the future, and add it to the Claude MD file. And then we're just going to go ahead and send that in. As it stands, we already have the Claude MD file. So if you guys wanted to see what the quick project overview was, it's all right here, but I still recommend getting Claude to refresh its memory. All right, so the agent is finishing up, and inside of the Claude MD file is where that database schema is. And so when you guys are first setting up your project and setting up your Supabase database, this is how you can get Claude to understand the entire database schema and migrate it into Supabase very easily. And that's because all of these Claude MD notes here have to do with the database schema. And so it'll completely understand it. All right, so now that the agent has finished up that step, we can't launch the project yet because there's dependencies that need to be installed. If you guys look at the top of the terminal here, we got this configuration error, and that's because, like I said, like the Expo dependency is not installed. And so that's the next thing we're going to tell the agent. We're going to say, please install all the dependencies that we are missing for the project to launch. Just as another note, the agent just said, Claude MD now contains over 400 lines of comprehensive documentation covering every aspect of the code base, from low-level implementation details to high-level architecture patterns. So I hope that helps you guys for sure. So the agent just said the dependencies are successfully installed and the linting shows the project's in good working condition. So now we don't really need the agents to do any more. We can now go to the top terminal and we're just going to write npm start. This should get the terminal going, and there we go. So now we have this nice little QR code. And so what we're going to do is, if you are for the first time using Expo Go, you just want to pull out your phone and you want to literally use your camera to screen record that QR code. Now, since I have this project already downloaded on my Mac, if I open up the app on the Mac, it's actually going to use this development server. And so if we go to the bottom here and we open up the Creator OS on the computer, we're going to see that it's going to start bundling here. And so it's going to start actually putting together the code into the front end. And so in this way, guys, you're now able to see when you run into errors or when anything happens on the front end, you can directly identify what is happening by looking at the logs on the back end. So we're going to give this a sec for it to start up, and then basically we're ready to go, but we just want to make sure that you guys have everything that you need. Okay, yeah, so I signed in on the left-hand side here and it directly just logged me in, and now it's pulling in my analytics. And so if we look on the left-hand side, it's just running through all of that stuff for you. And so out the box, it looks like Creator OS iOS is ready for you guys. And so I'm really excited to see what you guys can do with this project, because it honestly took a lot of time for me to understand how the database actually is going to keep track of the growth of each of these platforms and all of this crazy stuff. And we could actually see already that we lost a follower in the time that we were making this tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm really excited to see, where this evolves from.